Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new video. My name is Harmon. I'm here today in Tacoma, Washington, and I'm checking out a very interesting case of a guy who was a serial killer who killed multiple people, 11 substantiated, but he claimed he killed 44. So I'm here in Tacoma and I'm going to show you guys at least 2 of the murder victims, where they're murdered at in their house, which is down the road here. So I'm going to show you guys where that happened and tell you the story of who this crazy serial killer was. On October 30th, 1947, a guy by the name of Jake Bird, who was 45 years old, broke into a home here in Tacoma, Washington, and he ended up murdering a lady and her daughter before fleeing the scene, but eventually being caught. Now, when police eventually caught him, they learned that this lady and daughter were not his only victims. Jake Bird was actually a serial killer. So it was about 2:30 a.m. on Thursday, October 30th, 1947. Tacoma police officers Andrew Sabotis and Evan Davies were dispatched to 1007 South 21st Street to investigate reports of screams coming from inside the house. Now, as they arrived, a barefoot man approached and ran out the back door into the backyard, crashing through a picket fence. And now, after scaling a couple more fences, the fugitive, who we now know is Jake Bird, was finally stopped. However, he did pull out a knife and attacked both officers, cutting Officer Davies' hand and stabbing the other officer in the shoulder. So after wrestling Jake Bird to the ground, they finally got him in custody. But that is when they entered the residence and discovered something pretty horrific. When they arrived, they found Bertha Cludd, age 52, dead in her bedroom. And in the kitchen was her daughter, Beverly Cludd, age 17. Both women had been bludgeoned to death with an axe. Police determined that Jake Bird had attempted to sexually assault Bertha before she was killed. Now, a little bit more backstory on who Jake Bird was. He was a 45-year-old transient who essentially moved from place to place, didn't really have much success in jobs, and had a lengthy criminal record up until that point where he committed the 2 murders here in Tacoma. Jake estimated he probably spent about 15 years in various prisons across the country. Now, Bird mentioned some information about the specific Tacoma murders here, and he stated that he entered the Cludd residence through the unlocked back door to commit an easy burglary. That is what he said. He brought along an axe that he found in a nearby shed. He took off his shoes and snuck into Bertha's bedroom and stole $1.50 from her purse. When he returned to the kitchen, he turned around and found Bertha standing behind him. Bird told her that he only wanted money and his shoes, and then he would leave. Of course, this is what Jake's version of events. Who knows if that's entirely accurate. Suddenly, Beverly grabbed him from behind, and a fierce struggle ensued, resulting in the 2 deaths. On Friday, October 31st, 1947, Deputy Prosecutor Earl Mann charged Jake with first-degree murder, but only in the death of Bertha. Now, part of the trial included some evidence that was found at the scene, including on Jake's clothes. The police found different parts of both victims, blood and brain tissue on Jake's clothing and body, as well as Jake's bloody fingerprints at the scene, as well as on the axe. On November 26th, 1947, the case went to the jury, and only 35 minutes later, they came back with a guilty verdict, and he was sentenced to death. Now, at this point, after Jake was sentenced, Jake mentioned that he had committed multiple other murders throughout the country. And as police were not really aware of that, they were very intrigued. And so before Jake was executed, they talked to him and interrogated him and asked what these other murders were. But before we get into that aspect, I just wanted to show you guys, this is the house. This is where Beverly and Bertha Cludd were murdered at. Now, obviously it's boarded up in the front, so I don't know if someone actually lives here or not. I would presume not, if it's boarded up. But yeah, it's just crazy to think, like, you know, 70 some odd years ago, Beverly and Bertha were enjoying their lives here on this quiet little street here in Tacoma. Jake Bird comes along. Who knows if he was truly just looking for just an easy score, like a burglary, like he said, or if he was wanting something else. As I mentioned earlier, he attempted to sexually assault Bertha. And like I mentioned, this is 1007 South 21st Street here in Tacoma, Washington. I usually only give out addresses for murder victims only if it's been long enough to where, you know, giving out their address doesn't really mean much, because, you know, it's not like the Cludd family owns this residence still, at least not that I'm aware of. It's not, I don't think the extended family or anyone really lives here at all. On January 15th, 1948, Jake was given a 60-day reprieve from the governor at the time by claiming that he could, quote, clear up at least 44 murders that he said he committed throughout his different travels, as again, he traveled throughout the country, just kind of living as a transient, doing whatever. However, only 11 of the murders were substantiated, meaning that only about 11 of the murders were really, truly pinpointed that it was Jake. And about a year later, January 14th, 1949, Jake was hanged in the Walla Walla Penitentiary. Apparently, he said nothing when he entered the death chamber, and apparently a note that he had written stated that he bore no malice toward anyone and sought forgiveness. Now, Jake is buried in an unmarked grave at the prison cemetery in Walla Walla, Washington. So there is no real chance that I'll be able to even find it if I was ever in that area. That is about 4 or 5 hours away on the eastern part of the state. So probably won't ever get to that, but just wanted to come here and document this part of his crazy murder spree that he went on. There was 5 men who Jake Bird apparently gave what he considered the Jake Bird hex. There was 5 people who all died pretty quickly after Jake Bird reportedly hexed them. And I guess several of them were a guy by the name of Edward Hodge, who was a county superior court judge. There was an undersheriff named Joseph Carpatch. There was a county reporter named George Harrigan. There was a police detective here in Tacoma named Sherman Lyons, who died also quickly. And lastly, there was even Jake's own defense attorney named James Selden, who I guess also died rather mysteriously and quickly after Jake gave them a hex. So very unusual to say the least. All right guys, I'm gonna head out of here. I have a bunch of more cases to film today. So I hope this video is something that was interesting. I mean, it's very bizarre, never really heard about it until recently. If you're new around here and you want to see more of these kind of true crime videos where I go to actual locations, just make sure you subscribe. And until next time, as always, my name's Harmon, and I'll see you guys next time. Later.